Do you remember a time when you felt unseen, unheard, as if your deepest strengths were completely overlooked? Perhaps you possessed a quiet wisdom, a unique way of understanding the world that simply didn't fit the loud, competitive narratives of success. This is a story about the profound power of what lies beneath the surface, about a quiet revolution sparked by a woman who dared to lead with her heart in a world that insisted on cold, hard numbers. Her name was Jasmine Ng, a financial analyst from Singapore, and for years she was told to keep her emotions out of the boardroom. The corporate world, a gleaming, formidable fortress of glass and steel, hummed with the ceaseless rhythm of data, profit margins, and relentless competition. Within its stark, efficient walls, Jasmine moved with a quiet grace, her mind a precision instrument for parsing complex financial models, her insights often razor-sharp and undeniably accurate. Yet, there was always an unspoken directive, a pervasive whisper that echoed through the polished corridors. Emotions were liabilities, sentiment a weakness. Jasmine, with her innate capacity for empathy, found herself in a constant, silent battle against this very notion. She was the one who noticed the subtle slump in a colleague's shoulders after a particularly brutal earnings call, the barely perceptible tremor in a junior analyst's voice when presenting under pressure, the way the light died in a team leader's eyes after yet another round of budget cuts. These were not data points on a spreadsheet, but they were, to Jasmine, critical indicators of the human ecosystem within the organization, elements as vital as any fiscal projection. She held within her a profound understanding that true strength was not just about resilience in the face of adversity, but about the very human connections that forged that resilience. She saw the quiet despair, the unspoken anxieties, the flickering hope in the eyes of those around her, sensing the intricate web of human needs that underpinned every corporate success and failure. But her role, her very job description, demanded an unwavering focus on the tangible, the quantifiable. Her insights, rooted in human observation rather than algorithmic analysis, were often dismissed, seen as mere distractions from the serious business of finance. She was the meticulous detailer of spreadsheets, the silent observer in meetings, her voice rarely raised above a thoughtful murmur, her expressions carefully neutral. Her talent, her extraordinary capacity for emotional intelligence, remained largely unrecognized, a hidden current flowing beneath a calm, professional exterior. She was a hidden gem, polished by the very friction of her environment, yet still encased in the rough, unyielding rock of corporate expectation. The weight of this disconnect, between what she knew to be true and what she was permitted to express, settled upon her, a constant, low hum of quiet frustration. The corporate machine churned onward, seemingly oblivious to the silent toll it took on the very people who fueled its operations. The gleaming efficiency of the corporate world, for all its structural perfection, was beginning to show cracks beneath the surface, cracks that only a few, like Jasmine, truly perceived. The problem was not in the numbers themselves, but in the story they failed to tell. Quarterly reports boasted of profits, but whispered rumors of plummeting morale, escalating burnout, and a revolving door of talented individuals leaving for less prestigious, but more human, environments. Jasmine witnessed this silent exodus, observed the weary faces in the elevators, the forced smiles in the break room. She saw ambitious projects falter, not due to lack of funding or technical skill, but because teams were fragmented by internal mistrust, stifled by hierarchical pressures, or simply exhausted by a relentless pursuit of targets devoid of human context. A high-profile product launch, touted as the company's next big leap, unexpectedly tanked. The post-mortem pointed fingers at market timing, competitor actions, and even a slight miscalculation in the initial investment. But Jasmine knew, with a certainty that chilled her, that the true failure lay deeper. She had watched the development team, once vibrant and collaborative, descend into silos of blame and isolation. She had seen the lead developer, a brilliant but introverted mind, crumble under the pressure of constant, impersonal demands, his creativity stifled by a rigid, unempathetic management style. The data spoke of sales figures, but Jasmine heard the echoes of unaddressed anxieties, unacknowledged contributions, and the quiet despair of innovation suffocated by a lack of psychological safety. Her hidden gem quality, her ability to read the unwritten language of human interaction, now felt less like a quiet intuition and more like an urgent, unheeded alarm bell. She recognized that the company, in its pursuit of quantifiable success, had neglected the intangible, yet infinitely powerful, human capital that drove it. Her internal conflict intensified. She was a financial analyst, trained to dissect balance sheets, not to mend shattered team spirits. Yet, how could the balance sheet truly reflect health if the people behind the numbers were suffering? She felt the burgeoning need to speak, to translate the human experience into a language that the corporate machine could understand, to bridge the chasm between profit and purpose. The quiet hum of frustration transformed into a nascent, powerful conviction. The time for silent observation was drawing to a close. The company was bleeding, not red ink, but human potential, and Jasmine, with her unique vision, knew it. She understood that without addressing the emotional core of the organization, any perceived success would be fleeting, built upon foundations of sand. The realization was both terrifying and liberating, pushing her towards an uncharted path where empathy, not finance, would be her true currency. The storm clouds gathering over the corporation were not merely metaphorical. They manifested as plummeting stock prices, a series of failed ventures, and an increasingly restive board of directors. At the eye of this hurricane was Mr. Chen, the venerable CEO of Quantum Capital, a man whose life had been dedicated to the ruthless efficiency of global finance. He was a titan, accustomed to command, but now, his face was a canvas of deep lines etched by stress, his eyes shadowed by a frustration that no amount of strategic planning or cost-cutting seemed to alleviate. Mr. Chen was disconnected, not by malice, but by the sheer weight of expectation and the traditional paradigms of leadership he had inherited and perfected. He had always believed in the power of logic, of systems, of the quantifiable, and the current crisis defied all his established metrics. He had tried everything: restructuring departments, bringing in high-priced consultants, even imposing stricter performance targets, but the rot continued to spread from within. Morale was at an all-time low, innovation had stalled, and the company, once a beacon of stability, felt like a ship slowly listing in a storm. He paced his cavernous office, the panoramic view of the Singapore skyline, a stark contrast to the internal turmoil he felt. He reviewed reports that painted a bleak picture, each graph a testament to his own growing helplessness. The numbers, his trusted allies, now felt like betrayers, offering no answers, only questions. What was missing? What fundamental flaw was he overlooking? He craved a solution that transcended mere financial engineering, a radical shift that could breathe life back into the ailing behemoth. He had built an empire on intellect and shrewd decisions, but this crisis was different. It felt personal, a pervasive malaise that infiltrated every cubicle, every meeting room. He saw the tired faces of his senior executives, mirroring his own exhaustion, their usual confidence replaced by a weary resignation. He desperately needed a breakthrough, an unconventional insight that could cut through the dense fog of corporate inertia. He had always been a man who believed in decisive action, but now he found himself paralyzed by the very complexity of the human problem that lay at the heart of quantum capital's decline. The traditional solutions had failed, leaving him in a void of uncertainty. He was a leader at a crossroads, forced to confront the limits of his own established wisdom, sensing that the answer lay not in more numbers, but in something far more profound and, to him, utterly unfamiliar. The desperation within quantum capital was palpable, a suffocating blanket that settled over every employee. In this atmosphere of crisis, Jasmine Ng, usually a whisper in the corporate din, found a quiet courage. She requested a meeting with Mr. Machen Chen, a bold move for a financial analyst, especially one known for her reticence. Her proposal was not a new financial model or a cost-saving initiative. It was an audacious, almost revolutionary idea. Mr. Chen, she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. The numbers tell us what's happening, but they don't tell us why. Our employees are not just resources, they are the heart of this company. We are failing because we have stopped seeing them as people. She laid out a vision for empathy-based leadership, a framework for fostering psychological safety, authentic communication, and genuine human connection within teams. She spoke of listening, understanding, and valuing the individual contributions and emotional well-being of every employee, not just their output. Her words, stripped of corporate jargon, were simple, direct, and startlingly heartfelt. Before Mr. Blank and startlingly heartfelt. Chen could fully process this unconventional pitch. Marcus Thorne, the company's senior vice president of operations, interjected with a dismissive scoff. Thorne, a man whose sharp suits and sharper tongue were legendary, embodied the cynical gatekeeper. He was the quintessential traditionalist, believing firmly that business was business, devoid of sentimentality. Ms. Ning. He sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. Are you suggesting we hold hands and sing Kumbaya? We are a financial institution, not a therapy group. This empathy sounds like a recipe for softness, a distraction from the real work of turning a profit. He gestured vaguely at the stacks of financial reports on the table, as if they were undeniable proof of her misguided idealism. Thorne's skepticism was a formidable wall, built from years of ingrained corporate dogma. He represented the status quo, scoffing at anything that deviated from the established, proven path of ruthless efficiency. He saw Jasmine's proposal as a threat to his own meticulously maintained order, a naive fantasy that would only further destabilize an already fragile organization. Other executives in the room shifted uncomfortably, some nodding in agreement with Thorne, others casting surreptitious glances at Mr. Chen, gauging his reaction. Jasmine met Thorne's gaze, her quiet resolve unwavering. Mr. Thorne, she replied, her voice gaining a surprising strength. Softness is not weakness. It is the capacity for understanding, for building trust, for unlocking potential that fear and indifference can never access. We are not talking about therapy. We are talking about creating an environment where people thrive, innovate, and give their best because they feel valued, not simply utilized. Mr. Chen, though initially taken aback by the sheer audacity of Jasmine's proposal and Thorne's immediate, aggressive dismissal, felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in months: curiosity. Thorne's reaction, while predictable, also highlighted the very rigidity that seemed to be strangling the company. Jasmine's words, though unquantifiable, resonated with the intangible void he felt within the company, a void no spreadsheet could ever fill. The meeting concluded with a tense silence, the air still thick with Marcus Thorne's lingering disdain. Yet something in Jasmine's quiet conviction, in the startling sincerity of her words, had lodged itself in Mr. Chen's mind. He had spent weeks grappling with abstract figures and strategic maneuvers, but Jasmine had spoken of something concrete yet invisible: the human spirit. Desperation sometimes is the most fertile ground for innovation. Mr. Chen, recognizing that traditional solutions had failed, decided to take an unconventional risk. He called Jasmine into his office the next day, not to dismiss her, but to offer her an unexpected opportunity. Ms. Ning, he began, his gaze piercing, I admit, your proposal is unorthodox. But I have exhausted all orthodox avenues. I am willing to give you a chance. There's a struggling department, the Global Client Relations team. Morale is abysmal, turnover is crippling, and client satisfaction is plummeting. No one wants to touch it. It's yours. No budget, no extra staff, just you and your empathy. Show me it works. Prove Mr. Favre. Thorne wrong. It was a trial by fire, a sink or swim proposition designed to test her radical ideas under the most challenging conditions. Jasmine accepted the challenge, a surge of adrenaline mixing with a profound sense of responsibility. This was her chance, her moment to prove that the human heart had a place, indeed a vital role in the cutthroat world of finance. Her initial steps were anything but grand. She didn't arrive with sweeping mandates or flashy presentations. Instead, she simply listened. She spent hours in the global client relations cubicles, observing, not managing. She bought coffee for exhausted team members, asking not about their sales targets, but about their day, their frustrations, their unvoiced ideas. She organized informal lunches, not to dictate strategy, but to foster genuine conversation. She mediated minor conflicts, not by imposing solutions, but by facilitating understanding. She noticed the unspoken rivalries, the unacknowledged efforts, the heavy burden of micromanagement. She saw the quiet talent, the deep-seated pride in their work, the desperate longing for appreciation that lay buried beneath layers of corporate cynicism. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, things began to shift. A junior associate, once withdrawn, started contributing ideas in meetings. A senior manager, notorious for her short temper, began to show patience with her team. Small successes, like delicate shoots pushing through concrete, began to emerge. A long-standing client complaint, previously shuttled between departments, was resolved swiftly and amicably by a newly collaborative team. The subtle hum of despair began to soften, replaced by a tentative, nascent hum of cooperation. Marcus Thorne, true to form, watched from a distance, his eyes narrowed, a cynical smirk playing on his lips. He saw Jasmine's efforts as a frivolous waste of time, a quaint experiment that would inevitably fail. He waited for the inevitable collapse, for her to stumble, ready to pronounce his definitive, "I told you so." But Jasmine, unperturbed by his gaze, continued her quiet work, sowing the seeds of empathy, one conversation, one act of understanding, at a time. Jasmine's quiet revolution within the global client relations team, though initially dismissed as an anomaly, began to yield undeniable results that even Marcus Thorne struggled to ignore. Client satisfaction scores, once in free fall, began a steady, improbable climb. Employee turnover, a chronic bleed, slowed to a trickle. The team, once fragmented and dispirited, transformed into a cohesive, highly functional unit, their meetings now buzzing with collaborative energy instead of tense silence. They were solving complex client issues faster, innovating on service delivery, and, most importantly, enjoying their work. These were not direct financial gains, but they were tangible improvements that pointed towards a healthier, more productive organization. The anecdotal evidence, once scoffed at, became too overwhelming to dismiss. Reports from clients specifically praised the attentiveness and human touch of the new team, qualities unheard of in Quantum Capital's recent history. Internal surveys showed a significant increase in employee engagement and a drastic reduction in stress levels within the department. As Jasmine's influence quietly grew, so too did Marcus Thorne's antagonism. He saw her success not as a triumph for the company, but as a direct challenge to his authority, his worldview, and the very foundation of his career built on rigid, quantitative principles. He began to escalate his campaign against her. During a strategic planning meeting, Thorne directly confronted Jasmine, his voice laced with thinly veiled hostility. "Miss Ning," he boomed, "while your little experiment might have generated some feel-good metrics, where is the hard data? Where are the increased profits directly attributable to your touchy-feely methods? This is soft science, at best a temporary placebo. You're creating an illusion of success, an unsustainable model that will collapse the moment you step away." His words were designed to undermine her, to paint her as an amateur, a dilettante playing at leadership. He accused her of manipulating sentiment, of lacking the rigorous, analytical backbone required for true corporate leadership. Jasmine, however, no longer the reserved analyst, met his gaze with a calm, unwavering intensity. She had faced his skepticism before, but now, armed with the undeniable evidence of human transformation, she stood firm. "Mr. Thorne?" She responded, her voice clear and resonant. "The hard data you seek is being built as we speak. Disengaged employees are expensive employees. High turnover is expensive. Lost clients due to poor service are expensive. We are not creating an illusion, we are creating a foundation of trust, a culture where every individual feels valued enough to contribute their best. This isn't just about feeling good, it's about building a sustainable, resilient company. My soft methods are creating a bedrock of human capital, that is, ultimately, the most valuable asset any corporation can possess." Her words, though measured, carried the weight of conviction. She wasn't simply defending herself, she was articulating a fundamental truth, challenging the very paradigm of corporate success that Thorne so fiercely protected. The tension in the room was palpable, a silent battle between two starkly different philosophies of leadership. Mr. Chen, observing the exchange, felt a growing sense of revelation. He saw not just a capable leader, but a visionary, daring to speak a truth that his own rigid worldview had long obscured. The ultimate breakthrough for Jasmine's empathy-based approach arrived not as a sudden dramatic explosion, but as a quiet, irrefutable demonstration of its power. A major multi-million-dollar contract, one that quantum capital had pursued unsuccessfully for years, suddenly came back into play. The client, a notoriously difficult multinational, had expressed deep dissatisfaction with their previous interactions, citing a lack of understanding of their complex global needs. Traditional negotiation tactics had consistently failed. Mr. Chen, desperate for any advantage, cautiously turned to Jasmine. "Can your approach work here?" he asked, a hint of his old skepticism still present, but now tinged with genuine hope. Jasmine didn't propose a new financial structure or a revised proposal. Instead, she spent weeks truly understanding the client, not just their business objectives, but their organizational culture, their internal struggles, their unspoken anxieties. She discovered a deep-seated frustration stemming from previous partners who had treated them as mere transactions. Her team, now fully aligned with her empathetic principles, engaged the client with genuine curiosity, listening actively, asking insightful questions that went beyond the surface. They identified a subtle but critical need that had been completely overlooked by previous bids: the client's desire for a true partnership built on mutual respect and understanding, not just a contractual agreement. When it came time for the final presentation, Jasmine didn't lead with numbers. She led with a narrative, a story that demonstrated quantum capital's profound understanding of the client's challenges, their aspirations, and their human element. She articulated how their internal empathetic culture would translate into an unparalleled level of service and partnership. The client was stunned. They hadn't been sold a product, they had been truly heard, truly understood. The contract, previously considered a pipe dream, was awarded to Quantum Capital. The impact was immediate and seismic. It wasn't just a financial win, it was a vindication, an undeniable testament to the efficacy of Jasmine's methods. Mr. Chen, witnessing this profound success, felt a transformation within himself. The walls of his ingrained corporate thinking began to crumble. He saw, with startling clarity, the true cost of his previous disconnected leadership, the missed opportunities, the human potential squandered, the very soul of the company slowly eroding. He recognized that the empathy Jasmine championed was not a soft skill, but a powerful strategic imperative. It was the key to unlocking true resilience, innovation, and long-term success. His own values, once strictly aligned with profit and efficiency, shifted to embrace the profound importance of human connection. He understood that true leadership was not about dominating, but about cultivating, about nurturing the very essence of human endeavor within his organization. The hidden gem was now shining brightly, illuminating a new path forward, not just for quantum capital, but for Mr. Chen himself, who had undergone his own quiet, profound metamorphosis. With the multi-million-dollar contract secured and the global client relations team thriving, the evidence of Jasmine Ng's unique leadership was no longer debatable. Mr. Chen, now a fervent believer, became her most vocal and powerful advocate. He championed her work relentlessly within quantum capital, a surprising and transformative shift for a man once steeped in traditional finance. He convened meetings with skeptical board members and resistant department heads, but this time, he wasn't just presenting Jasmine's findings. He was endorsing them with the full weight of his authority and his newfound conviction. "We have spent decades chasing numbers," Mr. Chen declared during a particularly heated board meeting, his voice resonating with a rare passion. "And while numbers are important, they are only a symptom. Jasmine has shown us that the true disease was a lack of human connection, a disregard for the very people who drive our success. Her methods are not soft, they are strategic, fundamental, and frankly, revolutionary." This open advocacy set the stage for a pivotal confrontation with the old guard, spearheaded by Marcus Thorne. Thorne, refusing to yield, continued to push back, arguing that Jasmine's success was an anomaly, an unrepeatable fluke. He painted her as an idealistic outlier, dangerous to the company's long-term financial health. The tension escalated to a dramatic showdown, a company-wide town hall televised internally where Jasmine's empathy-based approach would be formally presented and debated. It was a crucible designed to either validate or discredit her. Jasmine stood on the stage, facing a sea of faces, some curious, some hopeful, many skeptical, and Thorne's glare a prominent dagger from the front row. She didn't rely on jargon or complex charts. Instead, she spoke from the heart, her voice calm but imbued with undeniable power. "For too long," she began, her gaze sweeping across the audience, "we have operated under the misguided belief that business must be devoid of emotion. We have celebrated resilience, but failed to recognize that true resilience comes from feeling seen, heard, and valued. We have demanded loyalty, but offered little in return beyond a paycheck. Empathy is not a weakness, it is our greatest strength. It is the ability to connect, to understand, to inspire, and to build something far more durable and meaningful than any quarterly profit." She shared compelling anecdotes of individuals within the company whose lives had been changed by a simple act of understanding, whose productivity had soared when their emotional well-being was considered. She laid bare the hidden costs of indifference and the immeasurable returns of human investment. Her speech was not just a presentation, it was a heartfelt appeal to their shared humanity, a powerful redefinition of what it meant to lead and to succeed. The audience, initially guarded, began to shift. Faces softened, nods emerged. Thorne, for all his bluster, found himself surrounded by murmurs of agreement, by an undeniable shift in the emotional landscape of the room. He was silenced, not by force, but by the sheer, overwhelming evidence of a new truth taking hold. His arguments, once so potent, now sounded hollow, relics of a past paradigm. The cynic was not won over, but he was undeniably proven wrong, his rigid worldview exposed as increasingly irrelevant in the face of a compassionate revolution. The success at Quantum Capital was not an isolated incident. It was a beacon, shining brightly across the corporate landscape. Jasmine Ng's empathy-based leadership was no longer just an internal experiment. It was a proven methodology, a testament to the transformative power of human-centric practices. Mr. Chen, fully converted, became her strategic partner, providing not only capital, but also invaluable mentorship and a vast network of connections. With his unwavering support, Jasmine made the bold decision to leave Quantum Capital, not to abandon her vision, but to scale it. She founded Nexus Collective, a startup dedicated to bringing empathy-based leadership to organizations worldwide. The name itself, Nexus, symbolized the profound human connections she sought to forge. Her initial team comprised former colleagues from Quantum Capital who had witnessed her methods firsthand, individuals who yearned to be part of a movement that prioritized humanity alongside profit. They were missionaries, armed with case studies and an unwavering belief in the power of connection. Nexus Collective didn't sell abstract theories, they delivered tangible results. They helped tech companies foster innovation by creating cultures of psychological safety, enabling diverse teams to collaborate without fear of failure. They worked with healthcare providers to reduce burnout among frontline workers, leading to improved patient care and staff retention. They consulted with manufacturing firms, helping them restructure their operations to empower employees, resulting in increased efficiency and product quality. Each success story was a ripple, creating a wave of interest. What began as a whisper in Singapore soon became a chorus echoing across continents. Invitations poured in from global corporations, prestigious universities, and even government agencies, eager to learn from her groundbreaking approach. Jasmine Ng, the reserved financial analyst, became a global symbol of a new way to lead, gracing the covers of business magazines, delivering keynote speeches at international summits, and inspiring countless individuals to rethink their understanding of power and purpose. She spoke with a quiet authority, her message resonating deeply because it was rooted in authenticity and proven impact. Nexus Collective grew rapidly, not just as a successful business, but as a movement, attracting talent from diverse fields, all united by a shared belief in the profound potential of human connection in the workplace. Jasmine, once invisible in the boardroom, now stood on global stages, her voice carrying the weight of a quiet revolution that was reshaping industries and redefining what true leadership meant for the 21st century. Her journey from obscurity to global recognition was a testament to the profound truth that the most powerful forces are often those that operate not with brute force, but with the quiet, transformative power of understanding and compassion. Years later, Jasmine Ng, now a globally recognized leader and the visionary behind Nexus Collective, looked out from her office, not at the Singapore skyline, but at a thriving, collaborative workspace filled with her own team, individuals who embodied the very principles she championed. Her journey from the quiet financial analyst told to suppress her emotions to a global icon of empathetic leadership was a testament to the enduring power of her conviction. Her approach had indeed transformed industries, proving, undeniably, that humanity was not a liability but the ultimate competitive advantage. Companies that had once dismissed her ideas as soft were now clamoring for Nexus Collective's expertise, desperate to infuse their cultures with the very empathy they had once scorned. The old paradigms were crumbling, replaced by a new understanding that genuine human connection was the bedrock of sustainable success. Even Marcus Thorne, the staunch skeptic, had, in a quiet, uncharacteristic moment, sent Jasmine a brief, almost grudging email a few months prior, acknowledging Nexus Collective's impact. "You were right, Ning," it read, "about the people. It's more complicated than the numbers. Well done." It wasn't an apology, but it was an admission. A small flicker of light in his previously impenetrable cynicism, acknowledging that even the most rigid minds could be swayed by undeniable truth. It was a quiet victory, proving that empathy could, in time, even bridge the widest ideological divides. Jasmine's legacy was not just in the thousands of companies Nexus Collective had impacted, but in the countless individuals whose lives were changed by the shift in workplace culture, who found their voices, reclaimed their dignity, and discovered the joy of work underpinned by genuine human connection. Her story is a profound reminder that true strength often lies not in the loudest voice, nor in the most aggressive strategy, but in the quiet courage to listen, to understand, and to lead with the heart. It tells us that the most valuable assets are often the ones we cannot quantify, the human elements that give purpose and meaning to our endeavors. And it teaches us that sometimes, the greatest revolutions are sparked not by a clash of titans, but by a quiet voice, daring to speak a truth that was always there, waiting to be heard. So, what hidden strength do you possess that the world is waiting to recognize? What quiet revolution are you meant to ignite? Share this story with someone who needs to be reminded that their unique way of seeing the world is not a weakness, but their greatest, most powerful gift. Comment below and tell us, how has empathy transformed your own life or workplace?